We have a guest on the line right now. Remember yesterday we talked about this. This has happened now. It's been a few days, but there is a federal judge who has thrown out the cases that the Justice Department had laid out against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, both who have been targets of President Donald Trump. And those cases now have been dismissed by because they say the prosecutor who secured those charges was unlawfully appointed. I said yesterday we were going to try to get somebody who is a legal expert to come in and explain this situation as best as possible, and we have done that today. So you can welcome to the stream right now. We have legal analyst Ed Booth, who is joining us. Thank you so much, Ed. Let's see if you can hear me first. Can you hear me this morning?
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. I think we got a little bit of a delay, but I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. I'll keep that in mind with the delay here for sure. But the big news that is coming out nationally is being looked at right now. Again, we're talking about those cases that have been filed against James Comey and Letitia James. A judge says that those cases cannot go forward, specifically looking at the appointment of the interim U.S. attorney Lindsay Halligan, saying that because she should not have been in her role, that has impacted the judge's decision in this case. Just want to bring you into the fold here for those who may be a little confused about this. Can you give any extra insight into the judge's decision for what we can see right now and what what they actually took issue with when it came to Halligan?
Sure. Well, this judge was actually appointed to avoid the appearance of impropriety, which is something that the law allows for, which is why you have a South Carolina judge here in Eastern District of Virginia case. So that's why that judge was on there to start with. But the overarching principle here is it's basically a separation of powers issue. The three branches of government are obviously distinct and they have separate powers. And there's an appointments clause in the Constitution that talks about the appointment of, certain roles, the United States Attorney being one of them. And then there's a federal statute that the court interpreted in terms of dismissing these indictments that talks about what the timelines are for the appointment of a federal prosecutor and what happens if those timelines are not met. It's the 120 days is what everybody's talking about, and that is in fact the timeline. So basically, what the judge said is that the power to appoint the federal prosecutor reverts to the courts after that 120-day period is expired, and in fact, that's what the court found happened in this case. And because that appointment was invalid, the court ruled that the indictments were also invalid, and that's what led to the dismissal.
You mentioned that the invalid nature that the courts now have ruled with this. Is there a circumstance where we can see what would it take for it to be valid, for there to be a U.S. attorney or interim U.S. attorney who could be in this role to potentially bring back any charges, or is that even possible in and of itself?
Well, the bringing of the charges is governed by, a couple of things, but what everybody's talking about is the statute of limitations. Generally speaking, federal crimes have a 5-year statute of limitations. There are some that have longer ones. Some banking crimes have a 10-year statute of limitations. So the two cases are impacted differently by that consideration. So that's sort of point number one. And something a lot of people are talking about is whether or not there is a time bar for some of these charges. And then, number two is the court basically found that the district court has the ability to appoint a federal prosecutor. That's effectively what the opinion stated. So, going forward, it's not 100% clear as to, exactly what would happen in terms of the appointment of a federal prosecutor. The usual process, of course, is to have a prosecutor that's selected by the executive branch, then appointed. But that hasn't happened here, and obviously it's become an issue in these two cases based on the court's ruling.
I was looking at some of the things that have come out. People throughout this entire process have taken issue with Halligan and the approach that she has taken. Obviously, she was appointed into that role after President Trump pushed out the previous interim U.S. attorney in that role. And it is widely believed, as he has said as well, that he pushed him out, that he did this because the previous attorney would not bring the charges against Comey and James, did not feel as though there was enough there. Halligan obviously did. There have been questions and concerns about what has taken place since that has happened, and even the way in which she got those indictments. And so now there is a group, a watchdog group, that has filed a complaint to Florida and Virginia bars. They want an investigation into Halligan and into these particular cases. They claim that she violated professional and ethical rules in the legal profession, said that she made false statements, brought a case that was unsupported by probable cause. I just want to ask you, if that were to be found to be true amongst a court, what could potentially be, the response to that? What could we see potentially happen if an investigation goes into this? Could she potentially be in some form of trouble?
Well, obviously, this whole situation is highly politicized, and I have no intention of taking any stand on that one way or the other. So I think the best way to address this question is to talk about the rules in general, and not how they apply to a particular person, because again, it's such a highly polarizing political issue. But you don't need to, because the rules are very clear. I mean, we could be talking about a prosecutor in a small county in Virginia, and the rules are the same. You have a duty of candor to the tribunal. You have a duty to only bring appropriate charges for which you believe there's evidentiary support. So that's true for every case and every prosecutor, and not just for this highly politicized situation. So, I think what you can say is those are the rules. How they apply and whether there's been an issue in this case is kind of a separate consideration. Whether or not either state's bar takes this up and investigates it is, of course, up to those two states bars. So, the Virginia bar may or may not do anything about it. That's up to them. They have discretion to do that. There are attorneys who work for that organization that that will make determinations in these instances where somebody is asking for an investigation as to whether it's appropriate or not.
And then I appreciate you answering that for us, Ed. I just want to ask you, is there anything in this case, and as you've been looking at it and getting more information about it as well, that even you're looking to see what could potentially happen next, or any questions that you have about the case?
Well, I think everybody's following it because of the political nature of it, and the fact that it is so unusual. To me, it's sort of an interesting application of the separation of powers doctrine. You have an executive branch that is appointing successive prosecutors. You have a judicial branch that has said, that was improper. I'm looking at the opinion right now. And the court holds very clearly that Miss Halligan's appointment was unlawful because the district court possessed, and this is in quotes, the exclusive authority to appoint an interim U.S. attorney once Mr. Siebert's appointment by the Attorney General expired. And then the court goes on to say Mr. Comey has the better reading of the statute. So, I think constitutional scholars and people who are interested in that sort of thing, can look at this as sort of an interesting application, in modern times about, the separation of powers and the powers that each of the branches of government have. Obviously, it's got a lot of attention, so a lot of people are focused on it. But to me, that's probably the most interesting application. What happens going forward in the individual cases, that remains to be seen. But it's certainly an unusual situation.
Ed Booth, our legal analyst there, always appreciate you coming in and giving some expertise. I know that there are a lot of people who are going to have questions about this particular case. As you said there, a lot of eyes on it from the political nature of this case, its origins, and how things are going. And we'll just have to see if this is officially the end of that case. Obviously, the Justice Department has already said that they are going to be appealing it, but we will see what happens after that. But as always, we got Ed Booth. Appreciate you for joining us. Have a great Thanksgiving, man.
Good to see you, Eugene. You have a great Thanksgiving as well.
Always good to see you. Appreciate you. Okay, it was good to hear from him. And I know, again, we said that we were going to try to bring someone on. He was available to come on and just very appreciative of that. Just a reminder as well, too, of the charges that they were facing. You had Comey, who was facing charges in connection to his testimony before a Senate Judiciary hearing back in 2020. It was alleged that he lied to the committee at that time. He has, of course, denied that. You had Letitia James, who pleaded not guilty to mortgage fraud back in October. She made that plea right here in Norfolk at the federal courthouse there. You could see the moments in which she came out. We were there that day and she spoke to the crowd, and both have argued that this is a situation in which the president has gotten the Justice Department to go after them because they are political foes. Comey, of course, famously investigated the president years ago, and then you had Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, who successfully won and litigated a civil case against the president on his business dealings in that case as well. So both have said that they are the target of a political attack for them by the president of the United States. That has been their holding. Obviously, in this particular instance, in this federal judge out of South Carolina that has currently dismissed this case, those were not the factors that were referenced. It was looking at, as you heard from Ed Booth there, determining that the appointment of the attorney who brought those charges, the appointment in itself was invalid. Therefore, everything that was brought forth after that also becomes invalid. So we will see what happens moving forward, if anything, with that particular case.